thank you all for coming to what's promised to be a very lively and insightful session. We're just super excited to have this collection of leading builders here to talk about the choppy waters that we find ourselves in today. So we want to get kind of straight to the elephant in the room, right, which is that federal programs are changing, are going away, right? 45L, 25C, D, Energy Star, take your pick, right? What's for certain is that things are changing, and we kind of wanted to talk about, so what does that actually mean for what it looks like to build better, build high-performing buildings amid this change. And so we're going to have a little fun. Wanted to get started with kind of a visual image to set up what we're talking about today. So come with me on this little journey, but imagine that we've got two continents, right? We've got two continents separated by an ocean, and the continent we're coming from is the land of building to code. Now, on the other side of this ocean, of course, is the land of building high-performance, sustainable, resilient, durable, comfortable, net zero carbon buildings. And we're all, we've been in our own little boats going across this ocean. Some boats are bigger, some boats are smaller. But, up until recently, we've had a nice little tailwind. We've had maybe the IRA tailwinds and other things. And then all of a sudden, earlier this year, things got a little weird. Things got a little quiet, and we noticed these storm clouds on the horizon. And so that storm continues to intensify, right? And the question is naturally, well, we're all in our little boats, so do we continue going on into the storm? Do we turn around and go back? Do we maybe kind of go to the side, try to go around the storm? Or there might even be a fourth option, which is, do we just kind of bunker down and let it pass? And so that's really what we kind of wanted to get into. I'll tell you, as DuPont, last year we set our net zero greenhouse gas emissions commitment, and so that's a 2050 thing, right? We see how sustainability is the long game, and so that's kind of keeping our eyes on the destination. But what we wanted to get to today is really the nitty-gritty of what does it look like to advance sustainable building here in this year 2025 with all of these storm clouds upon us. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with that. Promise it's going to be lively. Again, a great, just tremendous group of leading builders here. You're going to hear perspectives from large national builder, local regional builders, our own CEO, of course, Aaron Smith of EBA. You're going to hear U.S. voices, Canadian voices, so promises to be an awesome time. And so we'll do just a quick round of introductions in terms of who you are and where you're from, and then we'll kind of get into it. And if I missed it, I think Sean Hunter from sustainability, or leading sustainability at DuPont Performance Building Solutions and Corian Design.
Hi, I'm Aaron Smith. I'm the Executive Director for the Energy and Environmental Building Alliance.
Doug Terry from Doug Terry Homes, St. Thomas, Ontario, Canada.
Hi, I'm Megan Cordes with Beazer Homes. I'm the Director of Sustainability and Building Science.
I'm Stephen Myers. I'm CEO of Thrive Home Builders in Denver, Colorado.
Tim O'Brien, CEO of Tim O'Brien Homes in the Milwaukee and Madison market in Wisconsin.
Outstanding. So Aaron, let's get started again with the elephant. So what does this elephant look like? What's happening at the federal space? What do we know?
Yeah, it's been an interesting past 6-7 months for sure. I think I've probably never been on the phone more talking to our friends at, whether it's ResNet or Energy Star, Indoor Air Plus, at the DOE, and it's been hard to keep track of what's going on. So I think things have finally settled down somewhat. I'll maybe start off with the headline news. So I was on the phone with Department of Energy this morning. Our good friend Asa Foss, who many of you know, has moved over to that program and will be taking over. And the rebranding of the program will be the Efficient New Homes Program. So in place of the Zero Energy Ready Home Program, DOE, DOZER, where's Mike Fry in the room? I love his DOZER. There's Mike. I love the DOZER acronym. Well, Mike, you have to come up with a new acronym. So I think if you work backwards from Zero Energy Ready Home Program, it looks like this is funded for the next year. The teams are there. They obviously lost some good folks. That's terrible, but I think if you ask me over a drink tonight, I'll say I'd much rather have it live on and be a viable program under a new brand than not live on. And I think if you went back 6 months ago, we probably thought it wasn't going to live on, right? And then within that, there are some things like we were able to, with the board and Doug at our helm, we said, we're going to do the Zero Energy Ready Home Awards this year. And we were free to do that as a private organization. And I think we've got, if you've seen the award, there's 30 projects that submitted that are just incredible. Indoor Air Plus, again, it looks like it's still going to exist. I don't know where it'll find a home. Lost more people probably at Indoor Air Plus. Energy Star, Doug, we talked about this a lot, that there's actually, what was it, 17 other countries?
Yeah.
That license Energy Star from the United States. So,
And sometimes it's codified.
and it's codified in Canada. It's codified in, I think, Belgium, it's codified, in Denmark and Sweden. So it was a really great program, not only here in the United States, but nationally. Again, it looks like that's going to survive over the next year and will stay Energy Star. If you look at the Solar Decathlon program, which has been a great program for many years, and we're so proud to have those kids coming. I hope you get a chance to see them on Friday morning. It's one of the most inspirational things I hear about, because they're just, we've got this great idea. It gives you hope for the future every time I see the young generation coming up. But we're going to have that. That's now called the Buildings Next program. Those kids, I think we've got Harvard University, I think the British Columbia winners couldn't make it. And then we've got Appalachia State. Where's our App State? Is Rob Howard in the audience? App State's coming. And then where did Ball State, David Letterman's alma mater. Any Ball State folks here? So they'll be coming. So it's great. I think on the IECC codes, 2024, I think most people are moving to that. We've talked a little bit about 2027, still seems to be ongoing. I guess the
fun part about the tax credits that might have some builder relevance as we talk on the panel.
Yeah, I think the last thing is the tax credits, but I want to tell you that the most impressive thing I've seen at EBA, we go across North America, and it's our Canadian brethren. They've got the CHBA Net Zero program. They've got, Enbridge has been a great partner, Enercan. And I go up there, and I swear, on a per capita basis, there are more Canadian builders doing Net Zero, Zero Energy Ready. Doug's one of the biggest in Canada. And I was like, oh, well, what kind of rebate you getting there, Doug?
Nothing.
And he said, well, how about that? And it kind of goes back to what we heard from Gene this morning. Yeah. It's the right thing to do. I wanted to lead the future. I'm worried about my grandkids, right? So yeah, a big applause for our Canadian brethren. And Dougie here's had the elbows out a little bit, and
Elbows up, buddy, not out.
elbows out, up. And we said, here in Minnesota, I kind of speak with a little bit of a Canadian accent, so we don't want them, and you're our largest trading partner in this state that we're in right now. So if you take it back to EBA's level, and I apologize, I've talked too much already, but for 42 years, with or without government programs, through different administrations, red or blue, we've always embraced high-performance building and helping others follow along and do what you did. I think we're just going to continue doing that. So it's super choppy, but when has it not been choppy?
It goes in cycles.
It goes in cycles, right?
So great
Thanks.
overview there. Really quick on the tax credits, because that's going to lead into kind of a little bit of the dollars and cents kind of impact.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's awesome if you can get $2,500 for Energy Star and $5,000 for Zero Energy Ready, and it was a big mover, and that's gone. I think in the U.S. it was $220 million per year, if I'm getting the numbers right, across the industry. That's a big hit when we've taken a lot of hits over the past 6 months. But at the same time, it may be more of a patchwork. I think, in Minnesota today, we've got $12,000 credit that's still there from our friends at Xcel Energy. Colorado's got a $21,000 credit. So there still are some great things there, but we might just do it because it's what homeowners want and it's the right thing to do. And I don't know, we'll hear from our panel, but how is that going to shift what people are doing, right?
Absolutely, and that is the spirit of EBA. But yeah, the next question then for our builders is, so what does all this change? Some certainty, some uncertainty, again, some real dollars type impact. How is that impacting what you're doing? And maybe just start, Doug, and kind of go down.
Well, we don't get a $2,500 tax credit for nothing, so it's never been part of our business plan. It has no impact on us whatsoever. And when we look at what we're doing, it's about trying to service the customer. But I'll ask the question, what's the number one thing that happens on a job site? Nothing. So if you can eliminate some of nothing from the job site, you can actually save money, probably more than the $2,500, maybe even 10 times that, by speeding up your jobs, having a more efficient jobs, like leaning out the processes. It's like that movie The Martian, right? When Matt Damon gets stuck on Mars and he says, I'm gonna have to science the shit out of this. Yeah, well, we lean the shit out of our company. And that's what we have to do to be able to compete against builders that frankly don't care.
Megan, how about Beezer?
So at Beezer, we made a commitment a little over 5 years ago to build all of our homes, 100% of our homes across the country, to zero energy ready standards. And that was a business decision. There was no $5,000 tax credit at that point. And it also built on a history of building efficiently. So we started building 100% Energy Star back in 2011. So we have always tried to build better homes beyond code, beyond standards, beyond what other builders are doing. And so losing the tax credits or changes to programs does not affect the way that we're going to build. So we're just going to keep on keeping on. Like we're not changing the way we're building. Of course, all the time we're trying to find cost savings. It's very important to find the intersection of efficiency and affordability. So that's always on our minds. It's always on the minds of our divisions, of course, as you all know. And it's the other thing about the changes to the programs and things like that. Like we use these programs as a way to do third-party verification and to show our buyers that it's not just us saying that we're building better homes. We're getting it verified by other parties. But as we get better at this and more sophisticated, and as we add solar and storage and all of these things that make the home operate as a system, the story is less about these are the programs, and it's more about when you step into this house, you have a lower utility bill, you have more comfort, your home is going to be more durable, all of the things that go beyond the program requirements. So we just keep doing what we're doing, and we're doing it successfully, and we'll continue.
Doug staying the course, Megan staying the course. Stephen, how about at Thrive?
I mean, I think the answer for us is largely the same, except I do think that we're missing one kind of critical part of the formula, which really is the affordability crisis that's unfolding at the same time. I very much agree with most of what's been said before. I mean, despite the fact that we were fortunate to have 45L for as long as we did, is that a negative financial consequence for those of us U.S. builders? Sure it is. Is it enough to buck us off of our path? No, it's not. But there's the broader question of just, I don't think anybody knows when this affordability problem in the U.S. here is going to end. And that is really, that's the true challenge for us, I think, at the end of the day. Federal policy, it comes and goes from administration to administration. I think we're kind of a corner of the policy environment, which makes it changeable according to the whims of Congress and administrations. So it's like these things will be here one day and gone the next. And one day they'll be back probably as well. Those punches you roll with. Fed's probably doing whatever it is that they're doing just around now. I don't expect to be terribly surprised by what they do, but the longer term question is, how do you square a world with prices created by 3% rates at 6% or 6.5% or 7%? That's where the sustainability waters get a lot choppier. We live in a world of trying to talk to people about long-term cost of ownership versus first cost. Well, guess what? First cost has become really, 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 really important. That first cost hurdle just got higher, so that's more challenging ground for us for sure.
I'm going to come back to that in a minute, Stephen, but Tim, how has this impacted you guys?
Yeah, like Doug said, I mean, I know you don't get the rebates, Doug, but it's really never been part of our business plan to account for the rebates. So if the 45L, if we got it, and we don't get it on every house because we're in a market where we do construction loan financing with our consumers, so we can't get it on their home anyways. But regardless of that, it is something that helps to offset the cost, as we were just talking about just now. It helps offset the cost of construction for the consumer. And we'll still get some rebates from our local utilities consortium. It's nothing huge, but it helps, right? Every little bit helps to keep that cost down. But I think for us, it's on we go. You know, we're not changing our mission. We're not changing what we're doing. Since we started this company in 2007, every home we've had has had a third-party certification. We do the testing, just as Megan was talking about. I mean, I'm a civil engineer by background. I love the data. And I want to make sure that we could truly verify that what we said we were going to do, truly tested out. So the verification process, the testing, is more important to me than any type of credit that might be coming. I think it's important for us just to continue to focus on building high-performance homes and get better at doing it every year.
So actually a lot of good staying the course, able to continue doing what we aspire to do. But again, like elephant in the room, there are real dollars at stake here. So have you had to make any changes in order to allow that continued journey? And I think Stephen started to talk about how, there's some realities in the market, and
Yes.
What have you had to change, Stephen? How have you been able to approach that in these
I mean, the biggest thing for us is just given the particular weakness in the Denver market, and also we're a little bit focused more. Our product mix is kind of focused towards first-time buyers in particular, or not all the way there, but kind of in that realm anyway. So kind of the most pressured place. I would very much like to be building a little bit more expensive single-family houses. I just don't have the land supply to do it. That's been a stronger market for us to be in. Instead, we've been more entry-level townhome kind of stuff, which is kind of exactly the wrong place to be. So not every Denver builder is going to tell you the same things that we would, but the general dynamic is true. But the answer is you find savings absolutely on every single line item you possibly can. And we set the goal of cutting our hard costs by 10%. It's probably not enough. We probably need more, but it means switching vendors and trades where we can. It started with the kind of tariff letters that came right around early this year, and pretty much anybody who sent us one of those lost our business if they intended to follow through, which almost nobody did. So that was kind of a bluff that didn't stick, because I think the message from builders was probably pretty unanimous that good luck with that. We can't absorb anymore. But product changes, we're absolutely looking at everything in the interior spec. And there's a few things where we pushed probably all the way to LEED Platinum, where we're going to reestablish ourselves at zero energy ready as the main spot for us to be. There's some retrenchment for us for sure, but generally speaking, I think we're still holding our ground where we want to be.
Doug, you mentioned lean as well. Could you add any more insight in terms of how you've approached lean?
We've done multiple lean sessions. True North is the company that we've worked with over the years, Scott Saddam, and we've looked at our processes. We've looked at a lot of work with our trades. Our trades actually charge us less than they typically do to other builders because our job sites are more efficient and easier to work and safer. So that's been a big benefit to us. That's why we've been able to be price point competitive with our competition that is not building the quality of home that we're doing. But I would agree with the comments a couple of us have made about the third-party verification is incredibly important. What we've really seen in the last year and a half to 2 years, and it's in part, I think, because we focus more on value than on price, we have to demonstrate value to our customers, is that they're coming to us now because we've stayed the course, and there's a differentiator happening with us in the marketplace. And that's not common. Like that was something that's changed. It's like the buyer's mentality in our market, at least, has changed, because for the longest time we had to maybe brand Energy Star and then use net zero ready to justify, and now they're coming to us because of the differentiation in the marketplace, and that's less than 2 years, I think, where it's really taken off.
It's really great. Megan, did you have a comment on the last one as well?
Yeah, about costs. So building this way doesn't happen overnight. It's been a process over these 5 years to get to where we are and hit our zero energy ready targets, which we accomplished just a couple quarters ago. So it involved a lot of learning at the division level, the boots on the ground between our folks, but also our trades, our raters, like everybody involved in the process has had to learn a lot. And so as a part of that, it's become part of our DNA, and that means that we can approach cost savings from a sophisticated level. We don't just do a checklist. We don't just say, how do we comply with zero energy ready? Check, 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 check. We think about how do we build the best home we possibly can within these parameters. And so as our divisions understand that better, they can do better value engineering and really be thoughtful about their approach. And we found really significant cost savings. We probably reduced our costs by $5,000 a home this year on average across the company, just figuring out how to do things better and more efficiently.
Megan, would you say some of it is evolution as opposed to revolution?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So let's talk about, you're able to continue this mission, this journey, and so certainly you're communicating to your customers, to the home buyers. We talked a little bit kind of in the prep around what resonates with customers, what doesn't resonate with customers. Could you guys share some insight on kind of those two pieces? We'll start with Tim on the end.
Sure. Most of our customers come to us because they understand the story we've been broadcasting for 18 years of green, high-performance homes, comfortable indoor air quality. Those are the things that we've been preaching. Having a program like Energy Star and Indoor Air Plus and Dozer to help back up the certification process helps. People really understand Energy Star, right? It's been branded very well, so people get that when they come to us. But they're really looking for, and as we continue to push that, is a more comfortable home that they can really feel more confident that there's consistency in its operation. Low utility cost, less maintenance. There's still maintenance with every home. I don't care what you build. There's going to be something, but if we can reduce it and help make it easier for them to live their life with a lower operation side of cost. But the other part is, we were talking about lean, is the housing affordability still continues to be an issue, as Stephen brought up, and as many of you also confirm. One of the things that we're looking at is not only leaning out the build, but leaning out the process and focusing on asset turns. And if we can turn a house quicker, we can do it with less building professionals in the field. We can save on the interest cost, and we can in turn pass that on and still preserve margins, but pass that on in terms of an opportunity for lower costs. So not only looking at the sticks and bricks side of it, the hard costs, but really looking at the process that we're putting in place and how fast can we effectively build a home and turn it quicker, so we can, our building pros, whether they're building at 12 homes at a time or 15 homes at a time, if we could turn that faster for them, they could build more total homes in the year. And same thing on the financing side, we can use the same amount of capital and build more homes and not have to increase the cost there. And that's just more efficiency. And that's sustainability right there too, because we're cutting waste, right?
Absolutely, for sure.
How about Stephen, Thrive? What resonates with customers there, and what doesn't resonate with customers?
I think I have a different answer to this than a lot of people here at this conference for the most part, which is that I think by the time they get to your sales office, you've mostly missed the boat in terms of talking about a lot of these things. And I think there's a big difference between marketing and sales that we generally, as builders, we throw into the same pot and stir it together and think it's the same thing. From my perspective, it fundamentally isn't. I think a lot of these differentiators are things that you have to be talking about as your differentiators in the marketplace prior to their arrival. You just don't have, mostly in my experience, you don't have a whole lot of time to talk about these big, grand sort of things that you're doing by the time it's time for them to be talking about bedroom count and location and all these sorts of things. And again, I say this from the perspective of being a production builder. If you're doing things on a, more of a custom one-to-one basis with a client, you could be in a very different world than I'm talking about, right? Where, those differentiators are the reasons they might ever even call you, for example. But for us, it's like we're out there competing in the marketplace. So you've got to try to help them make that sort of decision. Maybe you get to use it as a tiebreaker later if you're being kind of bid against somewhere else. But it's like, minute they walk in the door, if you start talking about all this kind of stuff, you will be wasting your time probably, because you need to answer the questions that they're asking you, which is usually not this kind of stuff. Stuff that we care about, it's important. It's our, Northern Star, basically, right? And that's kind of where we're headed. But at the end of the day, we can't be looking to our customer for validation on the sales floor. That's a part of our message to them in the overall marketplace, is how we differentiate ourselves as a builder that's, for all these things, maybe they're motivating for you or maybe they're not as a consumer, but they are absolutely a proxy for expertise and care and all those sorts of things, right? So it's like, but still, I think you have to try to do those things via your social media outreach. your marketing programs, your advertising, whatever it is that you're doing, that's where you've got that stuff on blast. Less time to do that on the sales floor.
So when you're doing that marketing blast, what things are you messaging on? Like what do they want to hear?
We try to saturate on everything, to be quite honest. So health is a great one not to lose track of. I almost kind of think we started pushing a lot towards health, and then we got zero carbon on top of it too. And it's like, I don't want to forget the health part, because I still think our customers really think that's important. Whole Foods doesn't exist without people caring about their health, right? They might not care that much. They're just willing to shop somewhere else, right? But they care a little. And especially for us, because radon's such an important issue for our area, and it's well understood. It's kind of one of those building sciencey kind of things that actually is well understood by the marketplace. And it gives us a great place to engage there, because still, even today, most of our peers don't install systems at all, which is unreal to me, actually. But for all the code advancement we've seen, there's never been a requirement around there to just do active radon standard. Isn't that kind of shocking? But that's where we are. I hope they never change it, because it's a great differentiator for us.
Megan, how about Beezer, Zero Energy Ready Commitment? What sort of messages are your customer base looking for?
Yeah, so we operate in 17 markets across the country. So to answer what is a customer looking for is, it depends. So, and I think that's a really important point, not just like the best answer to this, because if a customer walks in California, I'm allowed to make fun of California because I'm from there, you can talk about the environmental benefits and you could get some purchase there, but in other markets, maybe not. You start talking about environmentalism and they're like, I'm here to buy a house. So, I mean, like if I walk into a car dealership, I want to know, is it electric and will it hold my kid's sports gear? If you start talking to me about a V8 engine or other car things that you car people talk about, I'm just gonna tune out and not care, right? So I think the key for us in customer messaging is getting our sales agents to have a really in-depth understanding of what we do and why we do it and the various benefits. I mean, really, really focusing on the consumer benefits of what we do, and then just do what they do best. These people are salespeople. They know how to make connections. They know how to talk to people. They know how to, I mean, does every sales agent know construction before they start selling homes? No, they learn it, and then they're able to convert that into what the customer cares about. And so whether it's a kid with asthma, whether it's affordability, a lower utility rate, we rely on our sales agents to be sophisticated enough to understand what that specific customer needs based on the relationship that they've built, and translate what they've learned about how we build into a conversation that pushes that customer in the right direction.
Yeah, insightful, right? Know your audience. That takes some work to actually get there. Doug, how about in your market?
Well, first thing, everything Tim said is just on point. That's some really great comments here. We look at it a little bit differently. We understand from the client purchasing perspective that this is maybe the most emotional decision they're going to make in their life. It has such huge impact on them. And we do not try and use logic with them on the front end. We'll use that for justification later. We stay on the emotional side. So trying to talk about decarbonization of a house, it's a non-starter, right? But if you can talk about how their family's going to be healthier, safer, have better sleeps, the home is quieter, things that impact on their lives in a positive way, you stick with that, and that's how you build the value proposition. And if you can start stacking the values, then you've really got a great opportunity to differentiate yourself. Most of the time, we're looking at how it affects the main woman in the home, because that's generally speaking our primary buyer, although we do have some changes in market conditions now with different ethnicities coming to our communities. But the other piece is that I love it when I'm in the basement and I see the guys down and they're trying to make it like they know what they're talking about, and because they don't, but they see our electrical panel and I know I've got them. Because that thing is a piece of art in our basements, and some of you have been to see it, and it's every single home is like that. And I know as soon as that guy sees it, when his spouse says, "Hey, this is a pretty nice home. It's really working for me on what the family's needs are," he's not going to argue because he's seen the electrical panel. And so that, I'm not kidding, man. It might cost another $100 more for that, but that is the most incredible value in the house because he's not going to argue with her. He's like, "Yeah, you're right, honey. This is a really good home." I'm not making this up, man. I've seen it happen again and again. The other one I love to do is I'll be in the basement. I don't get to do it as much anymore, and I'll be talking to a potential customer. Hey, listen, competition's just up the street. I want you to go down, look at their basement, and then spend a little bit of time there, and then come back and talk to me. We'll be in stocking feet, and all of a sudden I would say, okay, you went there, and you're back here. What did you notice that's different there? Their floor is really cold. Oh yeah, is your floor heated? No, but we have sub-slab insulation, which also helps as our radon detail. Oh, so you're stacking benefits again, right?
Yeah, I think stacking of benefits is one of the ways that you drive sustainability, right? It's not ever going to be one single thing usually. You mentioned that they're not looking for decarbonization, right? So maybe we'll turn to carbon for a minute. And Aaron, actually wanted to start with you in terms of kind of the outlook on carbon and what EBA's been doing on, there's like a carbon certification program. Could you share a little bit about where, do you see that carbon focus staying within EBA? Has that changed at all? What's the outlook on carbon?
Well, I was a judge for the Building Excellence Awards, and I think that we have 4 builders up here that submitted awards. And I'm pretty sure, and I apologize, Megan, if yours didn't have it, but 3 of them had carbon offsets in their awards package, which I thought was really incredible. So is it important? EBA is a reflection of our membership. It's important to them. Of course, it's important to us. I do think if you talk to me long enough about carbon, you and I I was the director of sustainability for a large building products company. I think that you and I have talked enough that carbon is extremely important to your organization. Congratulations on the new environmental product declarations you have out for some of your new products. That's incredible. So I think there's a couple of steps on this. The first being that operational carbon, yeah, of course. But it flows too. I think if you try to have that person come in and, hey, we don't have any operational carbon, that's the wrong message probably. It's probably more around, this is a healthy home that won't hurt you and your family, right? So operational carbon is going to continue to be very important. But I think embodied carbon, I think we're early doors on that. And there's some great tools. Obviously, EBA was one of the supporters for the BEAM tool. Doug, I know you use that. Some people are using one-click LCA. Some people are using EC3. There's many different tools out there. But Doug, you've done a good job on your team of thoughtfully looking at your carbon. They do this crazy thing up in Ontario where they love to put brick on the front of all their homes. But I think you told me that you've looked at embodied carbon, and through some pretty thoughtful choices, you can save how much % on a house?
Oh, you're killing me.
That was a softball.
A bit, yeah.
Yeah, a bit, like 40%.
We're looking at all different elements within the homes, but I would say the carbon conversation that's back to the logic side. That's where we're at societally, and I'm generalizing, please. Mm-hmm. You use that as maybe a confidence argument later. If you don't have them on the emotional front end, it won't matter. But what can you do that can reduce carbon, I would say at no additional cost, without really harming your operation? Grab the low-hanging fruit. But I'll also say, hey, listen, I represent Grafenstone in Canada. We sell into the States a lot, and we have paints and specialty coatings that absorb CO2. And even with my own company, because it's a little bit more money, that's a bit of a struggle. But I also know that if I look at those same paints and specialty coatings, the baseline product is the same as a Benny Moore, and it's way less carbon. But it also has 0 VOCs, and it also has no HAPs, hazardous air pollutants. So I'm providing a safer, healthier product for my customers by choosing that specific paint. And I'm decarbonizing, right? So stacking of value again.
Back to the stacking, right. So in terms of carbon measurement, I think the embodied carbon conversation is interesting. It's definitely one that has emerged, become more common here at the EBA discussion in the last couple of years. And there are folks that have been doing the measurement, doing the management, looking for ways to reduce embodied carbon. Tim, you guys are one of those builders who have purchased the offsets for the embodied carbon. Yeah. And so can you talk about how has that resonated in the market where that's been interesting?
Well, I think, as we mentioned up here, it's still a little hard for consumers to embrace that, to understand what that truly means. So we've just kind of piloted a program with Green Builder Media and their resources to be able to help support educating consumers on what it means. And we do, embodied carbon is hard for us. We do full basements, so a lot of concrete, there's a lot of carbon in concrete. And then you start to get into some of the bigger plans with ranches and first floor masters, and that's a lot more concrete and a lot more OSB. So I mean, those are the two big ones. It's hard for us to really get down. But the operational carbon we can really drive down, and we drive that down through the energy efficiency component of it, through reducing our air changes. Our average air change is about 1 to 1.25 ACH50. So I mean, we're able to drive that down considerably. So our operational carbon is really low. But we are working with 2 particular clients on a pilot program as it relates to carbon, and they're pretty excited about it. There's no cost to them, we're paying for it, but we just want to get it out there and just see what kind of response we're getting from it. We're also doing it on all of our models. So we want to talk about it when consumers come in. Again, not the first thing we talk about, but it's a nice piece to just kind of share that we are truly taking steps to go forward in the world of sustainability, in addition to the things that we're doing with energy efficiency. So it's kind of cool. We're the first in our state to do 6 of these zero carbon homes. And it's been great to work with Sarah Gutterman and her team and kind of putting together a program that our sales team can learn from. So we're looking to put training towards that. But it's just a good message. It's just a good community thing to do in the community, so to speak.
Getting back to the mission of EBA, right? It's about doing the right thing. So that's really interesting because there's a path to the operational carbon that does resonate, be it energy savings, be it more comfortable experience, that sort of thing, even the healthier side. But I think you shared something in one of your markets where the embodied part did resonate, and maybe it was with folks who wanted to kind of show off their zero carbon status. Could you share about that?
Yeah, so we really operate in 2 distinct markets from a green consumer point of view. Our Metro Milwaukee market I would call more of an economic green market, so we really got to demonstrate the return on the investment. We are definitely not the low-cost provider in that market, or in any of our markets, so we really got to demonstrate that return and get them comfortable with it. In Madison I would call is more of I would say it's 2. It's really sustainable green, but it's also fashionably green. And so for them to be able to share that, with their friends that they have a zero carbon home, there's some status that goes with that. But the other thing I just wanted to mention, as we were talking about consumers before, is that I failed to mention in the last question, is that a lot of people don't understand the benefits of these homes until they get in them, right? So I think one of the things for us as builders and practitioners in this field of sustainability is to circle back with our consumers after they've been in the home for 6 to 12 months. And we get that in our third-party surveys, and we get that in conversations. And I think it behooves us to really ask for that Google review, to get maybe a testimonial video that we could post on site, to get them to join in maybe on one of our podcasts that we could share with the consumers. But I think people really don't understand it until they get into it. Unless they've been in one before, then they do. But when there's limited opportunities for that in the markets that you're in, for them to be able to come out of a high-performance home, I think it's important for us to make sure that we capture that excitement, that feeling that they have, that this is different. There's something different about this home, and they feel really good about it. And to be able to get that message back out from the consumer to the rest of the consumer group, I think is so important today.
Back to the messaging, and it's fascinating that we actually learn a lot more actually walking into a house than looking at a screen, right? So how do you make that happen? Aaron, are you fashionably green?
I probably am, if I'm honest. I mean, I think Megan and I are pretty similar. Like, we would be your favorite consumer because I think I'm down to the only operational carbon in my house is the gas fireplace. Although growing up in the Midwest, I can hear my dad's voice, like, always have a third heating source just in case. So it's there as a safety net, right? But we've put in the heat pump technology. I will tell you, like, the heat pump washer dryer combo is the coolest thing ever. In a house, we've got solar in, we've got 2 battery cars. I mean, we have radically decarbonized our life. I know you have too, Megan. So we try to live the brand as well. But I think my kids are even more so, and I don't know if you're seeing that with the younger generations, but I think this is coming to the marketplace more and more. Megan may have some thoughts too on. Are you fashionably green too, Megan?
Yeah, I live in Sacramento.
You're really green.
You're sustainably green.
You're
Yeah.
sustainably
Personally green.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think, I live this, and I think that decarbonization is so important. It's vital. I mean, I worked for the Energy Commission in California. I've been doing this for 20 years. This is my mission. And so, at Beezer, we are, as a result of what we're doing, we're already reducing our operational carbon down to near zero. We've reduced our energy consumption so much. We've pushed toward electrification in probably 40% of our homes at this point, and getting higher every day. And then we've started a solar program. So we're starting to put solar in, and we're working on getting that all across the country. And so at a certain point, our operational carbon will be near or less than zero. So that's exciting and wonderful, and kind of a natural offshoot of what we're already doing with our efficiency and sustainability targets. I think, as everybody has said, embodied carbon is a little more difficult. I think we can start picking off low-hanging fruit for embodied carbon, but when we think about sustainability initiatives, it has to be a business case. And so we have to think about what's good for the customer, what's good for our shareholders, what's good for our trades, what can we actually do, what can our employees take on and handle, in addition to the 1,700 other things they're doing on a daily basis in our homes. And so we've never been a builder that's waited for regulations to make us do something. So in terms of embodied carbon, we'll stay ahead of it, and we'll make sure that we're there before we have to be. But right now, it's not like the #1 priority. We'll continue moving in that direction, though.
Carbon is probably the biggest thing that's faced the headwinds in what's going on, right? I mean, you're hearing how you're able to continue kind of the high-performance building piece going forward, but I think carbon will continue to be that challenge. And to your point, Megan, the question may be sort of not if, but when, and being prepared for the when. Stephen, I know Thrive has spent some time doing some embodied carbon analysis, and maybe even some offsets work there. What's your perspective? Has your focus on carbon shifted a little bit based on these headwinds?
I'd say a couple of things is, first, to echo some of the points of my panelists up here. Decarbonization is a policy goal. It's not a marketing message. We have a lot of work to do to think about how we communicate to the broader marketplace about what the benefits of these things are. And so I think you've heard the tone from the panel overall that operational carbon is kind of net zero by a different name in a lot of ways. And we ought not forget that the idea that you can produce your own energy is attractive to a wide swath of people of various cultural and political affiliations, because most of us like the idea of independence and not necessarily being beholden to someone else or a marketplace for the ability to heat and cool our home or keep our lights on or whatever. So it's kind of one of those things where operational carbon, that phrase probably sits best in the policy world, and you should probably talk about the more direct, sort of easily communicated benefits, because they are easily communicated, and it's not as expensive as it used to be for us to be net zero. So it's like there's a lot of good things going on the operational carbon side of things. I just don't know that the phrase is all that persuasive. Now, flipping around, the upshot of it being a policy objective is that some municipalities actually have that policy objective. And it gives you a chance to come alongside of one of those municipalities and say, we can help you achieve this goal. So, you guys, some of you may have heard of some of the projects we're doing up in Breckenridge, resort town up in the mountains, and we're doing about 60-unit workforce housing project for them. And that's being done as carbon neutral. It's being done because the customer for that project is the town of Breckenridge, and they want to do that. If we were going direct to the consumer to try to make that happen, it probably wouldn't work very well. And I think one of the interesting things, too, is that we could think about the most desirable place for a building, embodied carbon reduction plan, where it would go, or you could think about the least desirable place. The most desirable place would be that it encourages us to work throughout our supply chains to make them less carbon intensive, and so that everybody takes a step. The worst place we could end up is that it's like an impact fee that we all get forced to pay at the end as a builder, right? That would be kind of, we all just have to go buy an offset for whatever we calculate, and we're not necessarily pushing things back through the entire chain, but we manage a lot of building policy that way, where we impose a cost on the builder right at the end. That wouldn't be the most attractive place for us to be, right? Particularly because if you get yourself into the land of what's your cheapest offset, well, offsets vary, don't they? A little bit, you know, like
Its own market.
This is a place I might never go and a place I've never seen, and this is a carbon reduction project somewhere that's 7,000 miles away from me. Do we count that? You know, so talked about some of this stuff at prior summits, and we will continue to in the future. Heavy reliance on the carbon offset sort of thing. You really want to be decarbonizing through the process, ideally, right? And the idea that we just kind of write a check at the end for what we couldn't take care of through the bill of materials, it's where we have to be, because it's not possible yet, I don't think, for us to be carbon neutral in the home itself. There is an offset at play, but it's still kind of a quick and dirty sort of tool to go balance some math at the end.
And there's a reason when we talk about being net zero by 2050, there's a reason it's net, right?
That's
You're gonna
right.
need to take care of that last little bit. It's interesting, you mentioned the policy piece on carbon. I think in California, we're going to see really how that comes to fruition, right? As far as how's that really going to be driven, and you know, the whole AB 24643, all that. But no, I know we're getting close to time, and I will say that you know, guys, you all have the awesome opportunity to ask this fantastic panel some questions. So be thinking of questions. I think we'll have time for a couple of questions. But the last thing we wanted to close on is kind of given all this conversation, given the headwinds that have existed, that storm that we're all looking at. What's your motto for how you keep moving forward in 2025? And Aaron, we'll start with you at EBA.
Well, I always like the I guess Winston Churchill's out of fashion right now, but I've always looked up to him. So I think he says, you know, keep calm and carry on. You know, you see that, and the Brits kind of lived through that in World War II. And boy, I think that is been my mantra now for the past maybe 6 months. Is I've seen it come and go. I've seen this administration and that, but I think you always have, somebody talked about the true north. You always have this true north of, no, this is what I'm really excited about. This is what I'm really passionate about. We're just going to keep calm and carry on and not let, I mean, I'll be honest, at our house, we're not watching a ton of news anymore because I just can't absorb it. I have to say, no, you know what, I've got great neighbors, I've got great friends, we're going toward these goals, so keep calm and carry on is my mantra for this
That's
year.
a great one.
Yeah.
How about you, Doug?
I remember when Aaron and I first started talking about carbon, and hey, we should probably put this on the radar at EBA, and our conversation ultimately kind of evolved around, well, you know, the most important piece of carbon in the home is the occupant. So we probably need to really put some focus on that. But the other piece is, and I think we're seeing a rapid evolution on this other part, is if your building burns down, or if your building, it gets knocked out in a flood, or your walls rot and you have to take the building to the landfill, it doesn't really matter how great your embodied carbon was, right? So the resiliency piece is something I think we have to continually to focus on. The pessimist in me says the horses are out of the barn and the barn's on fire. We probably need to address that. And so what we like to talk about is solving problems for people they don't realize they have while creating communities they love to live in. And some of that has led us to what we call Life Arc. And we've now done a pilot home, and we've done 2 demonstration homes in St. Thomas where we put the Life Arc concepts together. And that's about what happens when the power goes out for an extended period of time. How does the occupant survive? And you know, you don't need to be washing your clothes or, you know, having necessarily hot water all day long in a power outage that lasts a week. You need to know that the building's not going to be gone, and you need to know that you can keep your occupant alive. So the life support system to us becomes incredibly important, and that's where we're going to focus.
That's really powerful. Megan, how about Beezer? What's Beezer's motto in 2025? And feel free to get as creative as you would like with this one.
All right, I did say I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, because this is literally how it is in my head. So Halloween, the movie, is a scary movie that scared me away from all scary movies. So I think about Michael Myers a lot, and a lot. So Michael Myers, you never ever see him run, right? He just keeps walking, and he, you know, however many movies it's been, he's still going. You think he's gone, he's not. He's still here. He keeps moving. So imagine Michael Myers was not a serial killer and be like Michael Myers.
And he's not super quick either, right?
No,
But-
He's
not
not quick,
fast
he just
at
keeps
all.
going, he's persistent.
So it's kind of like me.
So be
Don't
kind of
fall
like
down.
Michael Myers. Steven, how about Thrive? Motto in 2025.
Aaron, I sort of like your keep calm and carry on one a little bit. That it's like, I mean, this is a time to consolidate and make sure that you are being as efficient as you can, because by being a dang good builder is going to be part of what gets you through, you know, tight budgets and price pressures and things like that. So that's, you know, I mean, aside from being an energy efficient and a high performance builder, be a dang good one too, right? Don't waste a bunch of time out there. It's exactly correct that, you know, the most common task performed on our job sites is nothing. So there's a lot of just slack time in there. And before we even focus on the more fancy kind of stuff that we might be doing in terms of advanced building technologies and panels and robots and whatever, just make sure there's something going on in the house every day. That sort of thing really does make the financial math work a lot better for you. We have to figure out how to make sure, like, well, we get a little bit less gross margin, or in a lot of cases, a lot less. How do you make up for that? Well, being a good, efficient builder is a really important way to do it, too. And that's the key. I think you brought it up when we talked to prepare on this call, is that a key part of sustainability is the sustainability of your own business, right? And so being focused, none of us proves any useful points by going out of business on principle, right? So it's like, you got to do what you got to do to get through, you know, recognize you're playing defense a little bit given the market headwinds. And, you know, typically we're not trying to score any points on defense. We're just trying to get our offense back on the field in the future as fast as we can.
That is it. How do we make sure all of our boats stay afloat? Right?
Yep.
Tim O'Brien's motto for this year.
You know, Megan, I got to tell you, that's so funny. We were just having this conversation like last week about scary movies, and that was the one that moved me away from scary movies too. So it's just so funny you brought that up. You know, I'd say for us, you know, I'll steal something from Simon Sinek here. It's the infinite game. We're on this perpetual journey. There's no end. There's no finish line. We carve out a vision. We adapt that vision based on what might be happening around us, things that we can't control, and focus on things we can control. We're all on this path, right? This path changes. You know, it gets mucky, it gets clean, it gets rocky. We're rocky right now. We'll adjust resources for that. We'll adapt to those changes, but we are going to stay focused on where we believe things are going and where we feel we need to go. And we're not going to have someone knock us off that path. Again, it's going to be a little dirty. It's going to be a little mucky. It's might be a little hard sometimes, but you know, we do see that at times it clears up, right? Every landscape is a little different, and so you just got to go through the times that are a little tough, but stay focused on who you believe you are as an organization, as a team, as a building entity, and just keep going forward. There really is no finish line for us.
I think you've got a little Charles Darwin in there, because it's actually not survival of the fittest, right? It's survival of the most resilient, those who can adapt to change. We've lost the clock up here. Check it really quick. Yeah, we've got 7 minutes for questions from the audience. So who's got a question, and do we have a mic that we can run over? Yeah, we got one coming back. Yep. And it looks like our friend Chris from BASF.
Yeah, great panel. Thank you, Chris Bradley, BASF. I'd like to get just to some unmet needs. So if a couple of you could answer the question, I wish I knew, I wish I had, as it relates to sustainability. Like, for example, I wish I had a simpler certification scheme or something like that. So can you talk about some unmet needs and what you wish you knew or wish you had as it relates to sustainability?
I've got one.
That was quick.
I talk about this a lot. I wish that there was a more robust and thorough training process in place for trades. One of the biggest impediments we encounter is it's not that our trades don't want to build better, it's that they have been doing something for 30 years a certain way and they don't want to change because they don't know why they should, or the benefits and things like that. So that's what I would say.
Anybody in here not had issues with trades as far as there we go.
No, I think that's huge, and especially as our industry continues to adapt. You talk about the carbon, we talk about going with more solar energy energy storage, things like that. there's a whole group of people that we need to train and get excited about that. So 100%. It's not just the people who are pounding the nails. There's a technology component to it that we need to develop. There's more energy raters. Oh my God, in our market, we do not have enough energy raters, and in our market, doing a blower door test is not a code requirement yet. And when it becomes one, we're going to have homes sitting waiting for occupancies because we do not have enough people to do that work. So 100% agree with that.
I would say our trade relations are so important. We've had a builder-supplier trade alliance for 11 years, and we're constantly working with them to make sure that they understand what we are trying to achieve with our jobs. It's just critically important. The other piece for us, though, is that we've kind of fallen through the bottom where our loads are now so low that there aren't on-the-shelf solutions. So that's why Daikin being here, we're working with RIA. Now we have to go back to the colleges and say, can we get a supplement training program? So we're working on developing that because it doesn't exist, because we need guys and girls that know how to install this product.
And Doug, didn't you buy an HVAC company as well?
Yeah. We have our own HVAC company because they left us. They wouldn't do our work anymore because we were too picky. And it's like, well, this is what I need for those loads, right?
Great.
And that's why we ended up with our own panel company too.
The other thing, real quick though, I want to throw in there. You asked what we need. I'll tell you what we do have, and that's what we have here at EBA. Not only here in the summit, but also inside of EBA, we've got some great groups of people that meet together on a regular basis to have conversations about this stuff. So, if you're not involved in the building benchmark group or the sustainability group, that's an opportunity to reach out to Aaron and the team and find out, because there are some pretty good resources here for us to have these conversations. I get a chance to talk to Doug and Megan, and it's wonderful. A lot of other people that are out in the crowd today, there's some really good resources here available for us.
And some arranging of tours as well, so we can go on site and see things.
Yeah, 100%.
The power of EBA that extends well beyond the conference. I think we've got time for one more question. It's got to be one more question. Again, this is your opportunity to hear from leading builders on sustainability.
Sean, I got a question for you.
Uh-oh.
What do you see? What do you see as the future here for our industry, and based on the things that you're doing in DuPont, what are some of the things you see and where it could be headed?
Yeah, it's a great question. Again, kind of back to sustainability being the long game, and knowing that there's this current storm maybe upon us, but what happens? Well, storms pass, and actually the sun's usually shining on the other side, right? So we kind of think about, again, playing the long game, putting ourselves in a position to be successful no matter which way the winds are blowing. And if we look at something like carbon, one day you're going to come to us saying we need zero carbon, we need negative carbon, this, that, and the other, right? We can't just flip that on a switch. So we need to be thinking about that right now, and that's something that I work with all of our product managers on to say, guys, all right, here are the options, and let's keep looking for options. And by the way, we need to understand when each of these things is investable. It goes back to, I think maybe Megan or Stephen made the point about it has to be an ROI. Like, we are running a business, and that's just the way that it works. So I'd say, honestly, for us, not too much has changed in terms of what we're doing. Still advancing the goals where we can. And I think we're watching the things like the ResNet 1550 standard, and again, what's happening out in California, how that might start to drive embodied carbon. With the energy efficiency side, we continue to have those conversations, right? We bring our great solutions to help out there. But somebody asked yesterday, I think Sarah, we had the pre-session, and she kind of asked us, are you optimistic or not? And I'd say, within DuPont, when I look at all of our technical folks, our sales folks, our marketing, folks are optimistic that we're all heading in the right direction. Maybe collectively, we're not getting there as quickly as we'd like to, or even from a pure science perspective, as quickly as we need to when it comes to carbon, but we know that's the right direction, and we're going to keep heading there. So it's a great question. I know we are 41 seconds. So really appreciate this discussion today, hoping that the insights from all the wisdom on stage really helped give you a little more idea to how you kind of keep your boat afloat, and whether you are going through the storm, around it, staying put, whatever, hopefully that helps you stay afloat. So let's thank our panelists.
I just wanted to say, thanks. Just Thank you so much. I think it's so important that we learn from our manufacturing partners. A lot of them have been doing sustainability for 20, 25 years. They're much further on the journey than us, so thank you so much for hosting this.